Data Futurology has 3 exciting conferences coming up in the second half of the year. We have Data Engineering on the 5th of September in Sydney, followed by Advancing AI on the 6th and 7th of September in Sydney. And then October 24th and 25th, we're going to have our Ops World event in Melbourne. Our conferences cover 3 main pillars: executive perspectives on leadership and strategy in the space, industry use cases and case studies, and then the third one is advancements in the technologies. Come and find out what's happening in the community, bring your teams along, get everyone together. It's going to be 3 great events. Hope to see you there.
I'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Talent Insights. Talent Insights are Australia's leading specialist data recruitment business. With offices in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, they're experts at providing recruitment strategy and building data teams for clients across industries Australia-wide. They provide recruitment solutions for all roles across the data lifecycle, including data engineering, data science, advanced analytics, customer and marketing insights, business intelligence, data product managers, and data governance. They're skilled at finding the best permanent and contract hires for your business needs, as well as statement of work, project focus, data resources. At Talent Insights, relationships matter most. I can say from first-hand experience, Talent Insights are fantastic to work with. Whether you're a business leader within an HR network or a specialist data candidate, Talent Insights should be the first company you turn to for all your data recruitment needs. Find them at talentinsights.com.au.
Hi, this is Felipe Flores. Welcome to Data Futurology. Today, we're going to be focusing on tackling issues of data engineering teams. Particularly, we're going to talk about improving deployments, improving observability, improving reliability on our data pipelines, and how that can help our teams punch above their weight. For that, I couldn't have a better guest. I got Paul Milinkovic. He is the Regional Director from StreamSets, joining me today. Thank you so much for your time, Paul. How are you going today?
Yeah, great. Awesome to be here, Felipe. And I'm really excited about what the topics are we're talking about today. So, I'm excited, basically. Yeah,
mate. Same here. And for a few years now, we've been running our data engineering conference across Australia, and we keep hearing about these issues that you're now going to be talking about, particularly managing data pipelines, better deployment, better observability, and how much time it takes teams to, be on top of those pipelines and fixing them when they don't have the deployment or observability practices that they want to have. So I'm very keen to get into that with you today. Before we do, I wanted to ask if you could tell us a little bit about your role, your remit. First about you, and then I'll ask you to introduce the company too.
Yeah, sure. So look, a little bit about me. I started StreamSets in APAC or APJ, Asia Pacific and Japan, in September 2021. Most of it was I suppose serviced from overseas since then, but the organisation realised that there needed to be some local presence. So that's where the local presence came from. So I've been with the company coming up to 2 years now. Prior to that, I was in quite a different space for some time, more on the application space. So rather than, I suppose, what this is as an application, but as infrastructure, I was more on end user applications for almost 10 years. And then prior to that, I'd done some work in BI and and kind of tablet-based BI, and worked on some big kind of data projects and whatnot, worked for some master data management. So I've stepped my toe into data, worked in a few different areas, MDM, BI, some of the analytical, and now I'm looking at the kind of how we get the data from kind of source to where it actually makes sense for organizations to use that data. So that's a little bit about me, about my background.
The work that you're doing now, it seems to be kind of the intersection of the different areas of your background. So a bit of BI, MDM, application with a bit of software on the side as part of that. The intersection of all that is points directly towards data engineering and data pipelines.
Well, yeah. Look, I think it does. I think it does point to that. I mean, one thing that I did miss out in there, I'd actually worked for an ERP vendor. for, between the MDM and the BI solutions that I implemented, then went and did the ERP side of things. And, I suppose it gives me a pretty good rounding and a pretty good overview on what the business, is looking for in terms of data. And then when that data is not available, what happens? How do we do that? So I suppose it does give me a fairly good rounding about the whole thing, really.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And tell us a little bit about StreamSets.
Yeah, so StreamSets started in San Francisco in 2014. And I like the story about how StreamSets started because it was, the brainchild of a person at, one of the database companies. And he basically went to somebody else from a data integration company and said, I want you to help, this company. I want you to start this company with me. And really it came from the genesis of the fact that whenever things change in an organization, and let's face it, there's always changes in databases, in applications. And when you think about it, an application is just the front end to a database. So if somebody wants to add a new field to the application or change the length of it, they don't think about, what any of those downstream effects are. And I think at the time when he had the genesis of this idea, it might have been 2012 or even 2010. So it was, quite a while ago. He was working at a bank in America, and that bank merged with two banks, or with another bank, I should say. So what they did to understand which bank the people's accounts came from, they prepended a 00 or a 01 and turned the account number from an 8-digit number to a 10-digit number. And then what happened? All the pipelining broke, all the data stuff broke, and then they had to go and work out where that was. And as part of that integration process, the people on the integration side, even on the IT side, never go to this thought, and he's just gone, well, there's just got to be a better way for this. And, so that's how that started. So StreamSets has representation in the major continents in the world, North America, APAC. So I'm based in Australia here, and then in Europe as well. So UK and also mainland Europe. And in beginning of last year, there was an agreement for Software AG to bolster, if you like, their integration space. They worked very well in the application integration, but anyone that works in the data space knows that data integration is extremely different to application integration. So they had a bit of a gap in their product offering, and the agreement was made to purchase StreamSets by Software AG. So gives us I suppose the gravitas now with a big company behind us to go and really extend the product functionalities.
Unreal. That is great. And what do you see as some of the main issues that StreamSets helps data engineering teams to solve?
Well, I suppose the biggest one that we see, there's two, right? So one of the biggest ones though is maintenance, and also time to delivery. So when you're looking at traditional methods of, I suppose, creating the data pipelines and creating that data integration to start with, it can take an inordinate amount of time. There's legacy products out there which have tried to do something. They've gone a little bit of a way to getting that done, but these products started in the late 90s and the early 2000s. And honestly, we're coming up to 25 years later. I mean, it doesn't, when we say late 90s, it doesn't sound that long ago, but it is 25 years ago. So where these products have had that genesis, they've tried to move with the times, but they haven't necessarily done that as well. And then, most of those products are focused on one or two types of pipelines, and whether it's batching, but that's what we used to do, and that used to be okay. I mean, the BI project that I was working on was for a large telco, and the commitment was you would get yesterday's sales figures by 9 a.m. today, but that doesn't cut it anymore. So when you want your sales figures, you want them up to the minute. You don't want to see sales figures that were 24 hours old. And I also remember standing in a whole group BI meeting, and the models didn't update overnight because something changed, something went wrong, and there were many times where that wasn't updated by 11 a.m. and the sales leaders were going crazy because they just didn't have the figures that they needed. So you've got these pipelining products there that will do batch, they will do change data capture, they will do streaming, but they don't do it all together. So what that tends to mean is you need one product for batch. They might do change data capture as well, but if you decide that you want to go and do streaming, most companies will have to go and buy another product. So and then the problem with that, and at the top level, it seems okay, but the problem is that you don't have the full visibility of what's happening with your pipelines across the entire organization. So that means then you've got to go and look at your pipelines, in one product for batch and maybe change, and then another product for streaming. And then if you want to get a full visibility, you're then going to go and buy some sort of observability product that puts over the top of it. So then you've got observability in your batch and CDC product, you've got observability in your streaming product, then you've got observability at the top, and which one do I look at, and how are you dealing with accesses and all that. So one of the things that the StreamSets offers and is different there is that you've got observability across the 3 pipeline types, which we feel then is going to make it a lot easier for maintenance, and also because you can see everything that's there.
That's great. And so the ability to have kind of multiple functionality in the same software, I think is excellent. Being able to build different types of pipelines and have the observability built in is awesome. You also mentioned that the maintenance, as a result, I think the maintenance of the pipelines is easier. But then what about the design and the build of the pipelines? What do you guys do in that space?
Yeah, well, we're all a no code or low code solution. So if you want to code, you can, because let's face it, that there's some coders out there that love to code, and you're not really going to get away from that. So we make that available. You can code various stages. If you really wanted to, you could code the entire pipeline in these modern languages as well. So that's good. But one of the issues there about coding is when that person leaves, how do you then maintain it? So the way that we offer that coding solution is that the coding that is done is then available in what we call the canvas. So someone that's coded the pipeline can make that available, and then somebody who doesn't understand code can see the visual pipeline in a modern canvas. And our customers and the people that we demo to go, we love this user interface. It's so easy to use. It's it's intuitive. The stages are there and whatnot. So that's why things are quite a bit easier with the product than some of the other products. And there are other products out there as well. But as I said, they're dealing with a 25-year-old user interface.
Yeah. And for data engineers and data engineering teams that, they get quite deep into the domain knowledge, or they can get it quite deep into the domain knowledge of the organizations that they work in, there's forever a challenge about showing the business the work that they've done, what the logic in the pipelines are, and being able to, sit side by side with the business and jointly look at the same thing, point at it, and create that deep understanding to be able to leverage the domain knowledge of the experts as much as possible. So it sounds like having a great graphical user interface like that can definitely help alleviate that challenge, that when data pipelines are so abstract, it's quite difficult for non-technical users to really understand it, but being able to see it visually, it must help go a long way towards solving that challenge for people.
It does. It certainly does go a long way for the data engineer to kind of step through that. But I mean, I suppose you've picked up on a pretty interesting point there, which is another thing that we kind of like to leverage as well, in the fact that because it is such a visual product, what we try to make it, we do make it available for lines of business as well. So, I mean, if anyone that's listening is in the data space, they'll typically know that the work that they're trying to do in the data space, it comes from the business, right? So the business will say, I want you to build, I need this data from here to here, and so on and so forth. And that makes sense. But any of the data leaders and any of the sprint managers that are out there go, well, I've got 8 weeks of sprints already full, they're already catered for. Now, what are we now? It's 15th of June. Okay, we can do that. I will start that on the 1st of September. And the business says, no, I can't wait 10 weeks for the data. I mean, where we're coming up to end of financial year, the CFO needs these visualizations so we can put those into the end of year financial reports and all this sort of stuff. So then what do you do? Your data team can't deliver everything that's needed. So you escalate it, and then, it goes to the CEO and says, well, no, we deprioritize that. So it affects another part of the business. So what we then do is because it is an easy user interface to use, it empowers those teams that have those sorts of analysts in those teams to be able to effectively self-serve. They can say, I want this data from that database. And if I tell you the IT teams then, I go, no, we're not going to give access to business users to our database. What are they going to do with the data? Well, we've thought about that as well and actually lock that down so they can say, well, you could use this data, you can just read that out, and then you can put it into whatever shape that you want and do whatever thing that you need to it with those various processes in that stage. So what that then does is it very much democratizes the accessibility to organizational data to the various teams that need it. And then you can use your data engineers to focus on the difficult stuff and on the stuff that really makes a difference to those businesses and to those individual departments.
And I think that is what you described there is both like a key trend that we're seeing in organizations at the moment in terms of that hunger for democratization and for more people to be able to do data work, really. But then that really enables the data engineering team that before, as you described, they would get kind of like a prioritized list of, all of the wish lists from around the business and have to kind of be fighting through that prioritization and people would have to get in the queue to get their work done, to now having a broader base of users throughout the organization to be able to do data related work. It means that the data engineers will get more of the interesting work, more of the type of challenges that really, makes them come alive. And because the reason why they became data engineers is because they want the hard challenges, the interesting problems, not kind of like the run-of-the-mill or day-to-day stuff. And if that can be shared, or that workload can be shared throughout the organization, it's a win-win for... Yeah, jump in.
Yeah. No, it certainly is a win-win for the organization, because the data engineers start to do more interesting work, the stuff that they want to do. The business gets what they need from their data because they are self-enabled, and kind of everyone really benefits from that. And it's not data is not the custodian of the data team, the data engineering team. And I think organizations need to have a bit of think about that. If they're thinking that I run the data team, the data is my data and whatnot, well, I mean, you're there to service the business, right? And the business users are asking for this information. so they can make intelligent decisions around what information is actually there. So the data team is there to enable it, and I think we saw something similar happen. I think around about 10 years ago, with the explosion of some of these SaaS applications, right? And IT was there going, well, this is my on-prem stuff and whatnot. And the business just went around them. The business and then started creating shadow IT. So I think everyone is going to benefit if the whole team works together and realizes what the data is there for and how that data can be used for decent, a number of things, right? So for decent insights, customer applications, we get a lot of organizations wanting to use our product to help get data from their core systems and make it available for a customer portal. So then what that means is, some study I did a number of years ago was it was costing $27 per phone call into a call center. And if you can get customer service or get customers to serve themselves through these portals, you're dropping that to 50 cents or $1 per service request. So the organization is not only saving a lot of money, but they're giving the customer a better experience, and they don't have to jump through a million hoops to go and do what they want to do. So, those sorts of things. And it's all about that organization's customer and trying to increase the revenue for the organization and save money at the same time.
100%. And as you said, like it's so important for the technical delivery teams, the specialists, to have that mindset of that we're there to enable the business and that we're there to serve, and then finding ways where we can have specialist team and non-specialist team working together in the same platform, I think is great. One of the questions that always comes up with self-service and the democratization is around governance. What do you guys do in that space, governing the data pipelines and the deployments that get done in the product?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, in the governance space, I've mentioned a little bit earlier about the business users being able to get access to those core databases. So, we've got the concept of connections there, so that team uses those connections. There's also a concept of what we call fragments. So if the data engineering team wants to build those fragments, then the business team can just pick up those fragments and reuse those, put those into their pipeline as they need to. So there is that element of governance around there, what these pipelines should look like, and those sorts of things. So there is certainly that element there as well. And what was the second part of your question?
No, essentially like governance around the building and the deploying of the pipelines.
Yeah, sure. And I suppose then the deployment is it needs to be role-based access control, and there needs to be put on there as well. So really, once these things are into production, you just don't want anyone and everyone being able to change those at will. So there is the lockdown protection of those sorts of things with the product as well. So that really helps. If you're looking at these sorts of things from more of a aesthetical based point of view, and the way that things used to be done, that kind of control and access and whatnot and code, it's there a little bit with code-based releases and whatnot, but just generally not to the same level, because then you end up with code sprawl and SQL sprawl and all that as well, and then managing that. So some of those challenges too.
Exactly. No, that's great to hear that you have user access controls, data access controls, row level security. I think that's phenomenal. And then being able to build reusable data assets, I think that would give a lot of confidence to the data engineering teams, that they can provide the assets that can be consumed across the organization for multiple purposes, knowing that the quality of the data coming in is at a high level, and that the business can sort of take it from there. And I think that sounds excellent.
Yeah, and I mean that's part of it. But we've also commissioned some studies as well, because we've got a belief around what we do. But it's never better than having that validated by an external research house. And some of the research came back was pretty interesting, right? So some of the research said that 76% of organizations have a pipeline break at least monthly, and 36% that their pipelines break at least once a week. So, and then that the time and effort, saying that the data teams are spending up to 50% of their time in finding and fixing where those breakages are. And these breakages aren't, they're not intentional. As I mentioned earlier, it could be the fact that somebody adds a new field, or changes the field length, or changes the field type in the application space, but doesn't do a full either regression test, or doesn't do a full impact analysis across the organization, right? So none of it's intentional, but what tends to happen then is that the business either starts getting incorrect data, or starts getting wrong data, or doesn't get any data at all. Things aren't updated. They're going, well, we had the same sales figures today that we did 2 days ago, and then 3 days ago. And then someone starts asking the question, is this thing actually working? So I did hear one situation where a customer had a broken pipeline. I don't know how the pipeline was built, but it was broken for a month before somebody realized, because there were no alerts in there. Somebody changed something, and they were making business decisions off month-old data that they thought was up to date.
Huge issue. And I think that it's something that unfortunately, it's something that most people have seen and or experienced. And I totally, like, at least in my experience, I have definitely seen an alignment with those stats that you mentioned. Around 37% of pipelines were breaking on a weekly basis, and 76 on a monthly basis. Definitely the case. And there's so many things that teams are trying to do to combat that. And I can see it sort of, in the lower end, starting with putting in the final data products, putting the information on when was the last runtime of that pipeline, what is the freshness of the data, having kind of like that information, the date and time, right on the reports. To have an information to, did this pass the test that we have on our pipeline, and then to having other measures of observability and accuracy or data quality presented to the users alongside with the reports. But having a much better foundation, I think, is critical. That it'll just take a weight off the shoulders of the data engineering team that they're usually, as we're talking about before we started recording, that the data engineering teams, they care so much about providing good platforms, good pipelines that are reliable and accurate, that oftentimes when they don't have the right tool sets, really, there's a requirement, almost a requirement, for them to have these heroic efforts in order to be able to solve the problems that are there, and to be able to continue to patch and be sometimes even on call. What have you seen in that space on how this affects the data engineering teams?
Well, I mean, when they start doing heroic, because at the end of the day, all these data teams have got projects to deliver, right? So, and no one likes missing a project deadline, because project deadlines flow to the project manager, flow to the program manager, program director, and then generally up to the CIO. And then the CIO needs to explain this sort of stuff to the CEO, and then to the business. And I come back to the fact that the only reason these projects are being done are for business reasons. I mean, if you're doing stuff for IT or data purposes, I mean, you got to think about why you're actually doing it. So no one likes to miss these deadlines. So what they then start to do is they try to do this heroic work, right? So, I've got a lot of work to do. I start at 6 o'clock in the morning. I have a bit of a break at 11 o'clock for 10 minutes, and I go through, and I'm still working at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So you're seeing these individuals in these teams put in these massive hours, and like we've all been in the space for quite a while. So you do things that are outside the norm, but if it ends up becoming the norm, people just go, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And because they're burnt out. I also think in today's age where we are in the 2020s, there's very much more of a view to balance life and work as well. 20 years ago, it probably may not have been the same, but I think the pendulum is certainly swinging in that direction where life and work need to be balanced. And if organisations are putting too much pressure on their teams and on their data teams to deliver what they need to deliver, and it's just not possible, they just go, I'm going to go and work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Then what does that leave you with? Then you're left with a depleted data team that you can't deliver your project anyway, and leaves you with a maintenance nightmare, because those people that pulled those heroics made the pipelines work in whatever way they needed to, whether it was with an old product or in coding. They're the ones that know how it works. So then you bring somebody else in, if you can get them, right? Bear in mind that if we're talking about data engineers these days, they're hard to get. I mean, you work in the space, you're hiring these people, right? So it's got to be hard for you to hire these people. And then if a pipeline breaks in that period, let's say you've got your hero data engineer or your lead data engineer leave now, it'd be fair to say you wouldn't have that person replaced before the 1st of September. Yeah. I think that would be fairly conservative as well, right? So if you're going to take 10 weeks to replace someone and your pipeline breaks in that time, what effect does that have on the business? And this is all then caused because you put too much pressure on that person and they're not getting the fulfillment in their job.
Exactly. Yeah. And as you say, it is extremely challenging to hire in this space. And as a result, people with the skills, they've got choices, right? And if they're valuing work-life balance, and they're gonna vote with their feet and go to the companies where there's a better environment. So I totally agree with that. And before we jump into some use cases or case studies, I wanted to ask you about your views on the economics of having data engineering teams spending the majority or a lot of their time on fixing pipelines, and what effect that has on the business.
Well, it simply means that, if they're fixing, they're not building new pipelines, they're not making more data available. And at the end of the day, let's say you've got a team of 10 data engineers, and depending on your viewpoint, if you're a large organization, that's a small team. If you're a smaller organization, that's a large team. But I don't know, let's say that data engineering team costs you 150 grand a year in salary, not 150, 1.5 million in salaries alone, right? So if you're spending half the time, you're spending $750,000 a year just finding and fixing where these issues are. Just think about what that 750 grand could do to improve where the business is. Could that be put into other projects and whatnot? And look, let's say I've got that number by a factor of 2. And it's not 50%, it's only 25%. Still $375,000. So just think of what you could do with that money. Do another project, create more benefit to the business by creating that project. So that's one of the things there with the maintenance. And if I can, find those issues, because some of these are buried deep in code somewhere.
That's the thing. They're buried deep in code, and it takes a lot of work and, and patience to be able to allocate or to be able to find the issue and then turn it around and then get the pipelines to start running up again, and the wait for the data to update and communication with stakeholders, which are always wanting the information as quickly as possible. As you know, most organizations now have data as their core, so it needs to be a service that is always on and always accurate and always reliable. So that, yeah, definitely the economics are important there. So last thing we wanted to touch on is some customer or some use cases, some case studies that you can share with us. How are these? What do these improvements look like in the wild?
Yeah, right. Interesting. Okay, good question. So talk about a bank that we've got as a customer in Australia. They're a tier 2 bank, so they had to deliver the consumer data right for the banking sector, and because they're a tier 2 bank, that didn't have to be delivered until June 2021. I think the tier 1 banks had to have that delivered a year prior. Anyway, this bank decided, well, they didn't decide. They hadn't done anything about this in February 2021. So, and the consumer, so they gave themselves 4 months to comply with the Consumer Data Right Act in the banking sector. And I don't know about you, I mean, but to me, that seems like an extremely aggressive timeline. And if somebody said to you, Felipe, when you're working in this space, you have 4 months to get this done, and it's got to be right. Otherwise, there's governmental fines because you're not complying with the legislation. What are you going to do? Are you going to bet your house on that? You know what, don't you?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. That is extremely challenging. And yeah, it's such a tall order to do in the first place, and then do it in such a short amount of time. That would be tough, especially with like the consumer data right information that they're quite so detailed in the data structures that they needed, and being able to pimp or have updated data so regularly. It means that the pipelines that needed to be built are just massive and need this high level of reliability. And 3 to 4 months is an extremely short amount of time.
Yeah, they got it done. They got it done. They used our product. They used StreamSets, and they were able to deliver that in that time frame. So this is one of the other things that we say about efficiency. We believe, and like this is a massive stat, man, because it's so big. There's I think probably a lot of organizations that don't actually believe it, but we believe that we can make organizations and data engineers 90% more efficient than they currently are, using the current situation. So look, that's one thing there. So they were able to deliver consumer data right. I'd call it 3 months, right? Because you don't want to go down to the wire of June 30 and then have an issue. You want to go through your testing and then make that available, for the 1st of July. So they're able to get that done in a time frame. Another bank has a customer. When I first started, they had 2 sections of their team. One was their fraud management team, and the other was their advanced analytics team. And the advanced analytics team was using one of these older legacy kind of products, and the fraud team was using our product. And the comment that stuck in my mind was, using this product, the advanced analytics team using this product, that pipeline is going to take us 4 days to build. Okay? The fraud team said to them, "Give it to us; we'll have it done in 4 hours." And that's the sort of level of efficiency that they're able to get. Using StreamSets and the product there. So it certainly helps out in that fashion. And interestingly, I think it was last year at Gartner, that bank is using our product to thwart $9 million. I think it was the biggest month they had that thought $9 million worth of fraudulent activity in card activity or scamming and whatnot in that bank alone. So in 1 month,
Wow.
it saved the $9 million.
Wow. Amazing. Like that speed of delivery and then that business impact on a monthly level. And fraud is one of those applications that you want to be, and you need to be on top of it to be able to react and action it appropriately. So that is phenomenal. And Paul, for the people that want to find out more about StreamSets, where could they go?
The easiest way to find out about the product is go to streamsets.com. And there's a whole stack of stuff in there. There's a lot of case studies in there. There's case studies across a whole heap of verticals as well. So, I've mentioned two, and both happen to be in the finance sector. But we've also got the world's largest mining companies as customers as well. We've got education, tertiary education customers. We've got customers in the health sector, where data is absolutely key for making real time decisions and whatnot. So that's really the genesis of the product as well. So making real time decisions and having real time data, hence our name StreamSets. So it's not just it's a bit of a play on words where you're streaming data sets, if you like. So that's how that came about. But streamsets.com. And you can learn more about that. And if you want to learn more, we're kicking off a free trial next week as well, so you can get in and start using the product. That will be interesting. And then we've got people that you can talk to that are in Australia. And if the podcast is going out across Asia and the world as well, we've got people in Asia, people in Europe, people in North America that they're more than happy to have a conversation with you.
Amazing. And we'll be including links in the show notes as well for people to be able to check it out. I encourage you to jump on the free trial. Let us know how you find it. And Paul, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with us about the problems that you guys are solving, all your experience and the different approaches and really how data engineering could be by minimizing the pain of those teams and allowing them to work on the more interesting challenges. So thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Felipe. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. I hope that you got a lot out of this discussion. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel so more people can find out about the challenges that leaders have in the analytics and AI space, and that's what we're trying to share in Data Futurology. So please like and subscribe, and if you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends. Thank you so much.